I'd like to make something clear. I'm not here just to complain or to criticize, which I think Watchtower wants you to believe, and worse yet, say that we're apostates attacking them. There is a difference between criticizing and critical thinking, and I looked this up in the dictionary, Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Critical thinking is defined as an ability to question, to acknowledge and test previously held assumptions, to recognize ambiguity, to examine, interpret, evaluate, reason, and reflect, to make informed judgments and decisions. And criticize is defined as indicate the faults of someone or something in a disapproving way. Well, I want to use critical thinking as I'm analyzing what I was taught and where it led me. And many people don't understand that there's a difference between those two definitions. Well, they don't think there's two definitions. Part of the examination about false prophecies is to consider the consequences of them. False prophecies are not just mistakes, not just stating one's opinion. Yes, we all make mistakes, but Watchtower's mistakes were printed in their literature as messages from God himself, and that Watchtower was the messenger God chose to deliver God's message. Is that too strong? Well, let's read what the Watchtower says. In the Watchtower of 2009, of November 15th, page 14, paragraph 5, it says, the channel of communication that God is using today is the slave class. And then from Watchtower of 94, October 1, page 8, it says, all who want to understand the Bible should appreciate that the greatly diversified wisdom of God can become known only through Jehovah's channel of communication, the faithful slave. So I'm not speaking out just to criticize, but I want to use my critical thinking because the consequences I've personally seen from people accepting those failed prophecies are very sad. It was in, what year? 1986 or 7, that my husband brought home, my husband brought home the book In Search of Christian Freedom by Ray Franz, and on page 567, Ray Franz quotes from the April 15th, 1990 Watchtower. The Watchtower itself said, the disappointment produced from failed prophecies has in some cases led to spiritual disaster. Wow, Watchtower said that. And another quote, many started pioneering with that date in view, cut short their studies, restricted regular employment, or refused opportunities for earning more money, and they were neglecting their health. And that was the case with my mom and dad. What year? I was newly married, so it must have been in 1968 or 9. And they sold their house, they sold their business, a bakery, and they went off pioneering. And they ended up, as my brother even admitted, my father ended up, he thought, bereft. It was, do you know that word, that definition? Just kind of floundering. And there's another example I know, and I think this is kind of common. People put off health care because the end was coming. They didn't have to spend money on their infected molders and other issues.
What's a molder?
Molder? It's a molar. Others gave up good jobs, and then they had difficulty finding employment when 1975 didn't prove to be the end. And they didn't make financial plans for the future. Higher education. That included me. Although I was number 8 in a class of 450 students, my goal was to join the pioneer ranks. I believe that the chant that the highest education is what we should pursue. So I cleaned houses and clerked in a bakery and pioneered. Then, Allie, would you like to tell your experience about passing up scholarships?
Not really. I was valedictorian, could have had a full ride to university and didn't go because you kept saying I was going to fall out of the truth.
Well, there you go. And she's had to work very hard since then. Obviously, you can live life and go forward, but these were hard things.
Watchtower destroys human potential.
Okay, I appreciate that comment. There's many people who put off having children, and then later when they're awake, they're too old. Ray France was an example of that. Me almost, but happily, in 1979, 75, 79, yikes. Allie was born, it was 79, I know that now. So, by the way, my mom and dad, when they decided to sell their business and house, were in their late 40s. So that was maybe not too wise.
They basically died in poverty, living in a dilapidated trailer with nothing.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And so we do have to consider the consequences of these things and use critical thinking. And that's all for part 4.